Alright, listen up, because what I am about to walk you through is the kind of accidental, self-inflicted, tabloid-grade chaos that money cannot buy and a publicist cannot scrub. One small swipe of a finger. One uncropped corner of a screenshot. One overconfident clapback. And just like that, the most carefully guarded face in celebrity newborn history was sitting right out in the open for the entire internet to zoom in on. The woman at the center of it all is Cardi B, and what she did to herself in the span of about 30 seconds online is going to be studied by every PR firm in the country for the next 6 months. So pour yourself something, settle in, and let me walk you through every single layer of how Cardi B accidentally exposed the one thing she had spent half a year telling the world she would burn the planet down to protect. Here is the setup, and I want you to picture this carefully because the timeline matters. The Bronx hitmaker has been in a quiet war for months. Not a chart war. Not a label war. A privacy war. Ever since she welcomed her newest child with Stefon Diggs back in the late fall, Cardi B has gone to absolutely extraordinary lengths to keep that baby boy's face out of the public bloodstream. No reveal post. No magazine spread. No staged paparazzi walk. Nothing. Cardi B drew a line in the sand and said, in her own words, that her newborn was hers to introduce on her own clock, and anybody trying to skip the line was about to find out exactly how Bronx she could still get when somebody touches her child. That was the rulebook. Everybody knew the rulebook. Bloggers knew it. Fans knew it. The shady corners of gossip Twitter knew it. And up until this week, Cardi B was holding that line beautifully. Then came the clapback. And listen, anybody who has watched Cardi B for even 5 minutes online knows that she is constitutionally incapable of letting a hater have the last word. It is not in her wiring. You can take her money, you can take her hair, you can take her platform, but you cannot take the last word from Bardi. So when a wave of online critics started swarming her over something her son Wave posted, it was only a matter of time before she hopped on X and started swinging. Now, the original spark was minor. Cardi B had shared a celebration moment for her little boy Wave, who had just graduated from pre-kindergarten. It was a proud mom flex, the kind of post any parent makes. A short clip of Wave performing, reading off some word cards, doing his little graduation thing the way a freshly minted pre-K alum is supposed to do. Nothing about it should have caused a single ripple. But of course, the internet being the internet, the haters showed up immediately with their commentary, their nitpicks, and their unsolicited opinions about how Cardi B parents her kids. That is when Cardi B made the move that ended up sinking the entire week. To defend Wave, she decided to upload a screenshot. A receipt. Proof, in her mind, that her son was thriving. The screenshot was meant to show the world that Wave was reading at his level, that he was advancing, that he was exactly where a kid his age should be. But Cardi B forgot one thing. One small, devastating, irreversible thing. She forgot to crop the screenshot. And at the bottom of that uncropped image, sitting there in plain pixelated daylight, was the camera roll preview strip. The photo carousel. The little ribbon of recent images that every iPhone user knows shows up at the bottom of the share sheet. And inside that ribbon were photographs of her newborn baby boy. The very same baby boy whose face Cardi B had been guarding for 7 straight months like he was protected witness number 1 in a federal case. Step back for a second and really sit with this. Because the irony here is so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. She has spent half a year going to war with anyone who even suggested they had pictures of her baby. She has threatened bloggers. She has dragged anonymous accounts. She has gone full Bronx mode on people in her own comments section. There was one particular blogger, just a few weeks back, who claimed to have unreleased pictures of the baby and was floating the idea of posting them. Cardi B caught wind of that and went absolutely scorched earth. She said, point blank, that if a single one of those pictures dropped online, she would personally make sure that whoever leaked the images to that blogger got dealt with in a way that was not going to involve a press release. She made it crystal clear. Touch the baby's face, lose your peace. That was the doctrine. Everybody in the gossip industrial complex understood the assignment. And then Cardi B did it to herself. Wait until you hear how she handled the next 60 seconds, because this is where you really see the panic kick in. Within minutes of that screenshot going live, eagle-eyed fans started zooming in on the bottom of the image. Screenshots of the screenshot started circulating. Reposts. Re-uploads. Pages clipping the relevant strip and circling it with red arrows. The internet does not sleep, and it definitely does not sleep when somebody this famous just slipped up. She snatched the post down with the kind of speed that only a celebrity who has just realized exactly what she did can muster. Gone. Deleted. Vanished. But of course, on the internet, deletion is a fantasy. By the time Cardi B nuked that post, the receipts had already been mirrored, archived, and traded across half a dozen platforms. Keep in mind, this is the worst possible outcome from the worst possible angle, because Cardi B is the one who created the moment. There is no villainous blogger to blame this time. There is no leaker to track down. There is no rogue assistant who sold the goods to a tabloid. It was her own finger, on her own phone, in her own clapback. The very tool she was using to defend her family is the tool that breached her family's privacy. And the cosmic comedy of it is that the only reason any of this happened is because she refused to let some randoms online have an unanswered word about her 4-year-old's graduation moment. The same pride that built her career is the same pride that punched a hole in her own privacy fence. Now let me talk about what was actually in that camera roll strip, because the details matter for everything that comes next. The pictures of the baby boy were, by all accounts from people who saw the original post before it was deleted, casual, intimate, home-style photographs. Not staged. Not magazine-ready. Just regular shots, the kind of mom takes on a Tuesday afternoon when her baby does something cute on the playmat. Which somehow makes it worse, because those are exactly the pictures Cardi B was trying to keep private until she felt the world had earned a peek. The whole point of hiding the baby's face for 7 months was to control the moment of reveal. To get to debut her son on her terms, with the lighting she wanted, with the caption she wanted, on the day she wanted. That door is now significantly cracked, and the Bronx hitmaker is the one who kicked it. And this is where it twists into a bigger conversation, because Cardi B is not the first celebrity mother to make this kind of choice, and she will not be the last. There is a long and growing list of A-list parents who have decided that their children's faces are not public property. Some of them never reveal their kids at all. Some of them wait until the child is a toddler. Some of them wait until the child is old enough to consent. The reasoning is consistent across the board. Children of celebrities grow up in a fishbowl whether they want to or not, and the only weapon a parent has against that fishbowl is the camera shutter button. Cardi B was using that weapon. She was wielding it well. And then in one impulsive defensive moment, she handed the camera to the entire internet. Let me give you the broader context on how this whole family situation has unfolded, because the pattern here is important. Cardi B has 4 kids now. Her oldest is her daughter Culture, the firstborn from her marriage to Offset, and Culture has been a public figure essentially since birth. She posted Culture proudly, brought her to red carpets, included her in interviews, leaned all the way in. Then came Wave, the son from the same marriage, and she was a little more measured but still public. Then came Blossom, the second daughter, and here is where her strategy started to evolve. Cardi B initially hid Blossom's face. She did not post Blossom for roughly the first year. And then, on her own timeline, when she was ready, Blossom was introduced to the world in a way that was completely on brand. Now Blossom is everywhere on her socials, and let me tell you, that little girl is a whole personality, a whole comedian, a whole production. She clearly intended to run the same playbook with the new baby boy. Hide him. Let him grow. Reveal him at the 1-year mark. Maintain control. But Stefon Diggs is in the picture now, and that adds an extra wrinkle that I do not think people are paying enough attention to. Stefon Diggs is a very high-profile athlete. Stefon Diggs has his own fan base. Stefon Diggs has his own paparazzi rotation. So this baby is not just her son. This baby is the genetic intersection of 2 stadium-sized celebrity ecosystems, and the demand for a glimpse of him has been off the charts since the day she and Stefon Diggs confirmed they were expecting. Every gossip outlet in the country has been camped out for the reveal. Every supermarket tabloid has been ready with a $1,000 offer for the first verified shot. And knowing all of this, Cardi B still chose to fire off a clapback in the middle of a regular Tuesday without checking the bottom of her screenshot. That is how locked in the clapback instinct is for this woman. It overrides every other piece of intelligence in her brain. Pay attention here, because this part is layered. The question now is not just whether the picture leaked. The question is whether the original blogger that Cardi B threatened a few weeks back actually had pictures to begin with. Remember, when that blogger floated the idea that she had unreleased images of the baby, the response was to publicly call her a liar. Cardi B said, on record, that the woman was making it up to drive engagement. She said the photos did not exist. And maybe they did not. Maybe that blogger was indeed bluffing. But here is the cruel twist. Now that Cardi B has personally leaked her own camera roll, anyone with even a passing interest in obtaining and selling those pictures suddenly has a starting point. A frame of reference. A confirmation that yes, the photographs are real, the photographs are recent, and the photographs are accessible to anyone who has access to her phone or cloud backups. The leak she was so afraid of just got 1,000 times easier to engineer, because she confirmed the existence of the material with her own hand. And this is the kind of unforced error that you cannot take back. Once a screenshot of a screenshot is circulating online, it is in the bloodstream forever. She can delete every post on every platform she owns. She can issue cease and desist letters until her lawyer's printer runs out of ink. None of it pulls the toothpaste back into the tube. The only thing she can do now is shift strategy. And I have a feeling we are about to watch that strategy shift happen in real time over the next few weeks. So check this out, because there are a few directions Cardi B could go from here, and each one tells you something different about how she is processing the damage. Option 1 is the controlled reveal pivot. She could decide that since the cat is partially out of the bag anyway, she might as well take ownership of the narrative and post the baby herself on her own terms. A clean, beautiful, professionally lit reveal that overwrites the grainy camera roll thumbnails that are floating around the gossip pages. This is the move a lot of PR strategists would recommend. Control what you can. Bury the bad images under good ones. She has done versions of this before, especially with Blossom, and the playbook works. The reveal becomes the moment instead of the leak becoming the moment, and within a week the conversation flips from accidental exposure to intentional family debut. That is the cleanest possible escape hatch. Option 2 is the doubling down pivot. She could decide to lean even harder into privacy, lock her account, scrub her socials, and turn the silence into a statement. This is the harder road, but it is also the one that preserves the most leverage long-term, because every month that passes without a confirmed image makes the eventual reveal that much more valuable. She knows the economics of an exclusive. She knows what an unseen baby photo is worth on a magazine cover. So there is a real chance she goes full vault on this and dares anyone to top her. The risk with this pivot is that the silence reads as confirmation, and the internet does not always honor silence the way you want it to. Option 3 is the chaos pivot, and let me be honest with you, this is the most on-brand option for the Bronx hitmaker. She could simply lean into the mess, joke about it on a live stream, drag everyone who tried to zoom in on her camera roll, and turn the whole accident into a content moment. We have seen her do this with smaller slip-ups before. The woman has the rare gift of being able to turn embarrassment into engagement. If anyone can take a privacy disaster and spin it into a viral monologue, it is her. The chaos pivot also has the advantage of resetting the conversation. Instead of the world dissecting the slip, the world is dissecting whatever she said about the slip, and the original story becomes a footnote. That is the kind of jiu-jitsu only a handful of celebrities in the world can pull off, and she happens to be one of them. But here is the thing nobody is saying out loud, and I want to put it on the table because it matters. The real victim in this whole situation is the baby. A 7-month-old infant has no concept of fame, no concept of privacy, and no say in any of this. His mother made a choice to protect him. His mother then made a choice that compromised that protection. And now thousands of strangers are zooming in on a grainy thumbnail to try to make out the features of a child who has not even said his first sentence yet. That is the part of this story that does not make for a fun tea segment. That is the part that should sit in your chest a little. Because no matter how loud the internet gets, no matter how clever the clapbacks become, there is a baby boy at the center of all of it who deserved better than to be reduced to a forensic exercise on a gossip blog. For anyone tuning in cold and wondering why all of this is even a story, let me lay out the cultural stakes one more time. The privacy of celebrity children has become one of the most contested battlegrounds in modern entertainment. There used to be an unspoken agreement that paparazzi did not chase kids. That agreement collapsed about 20 years ago, and ever since, every famous parent has had to build their own wall, brick by brick. Some celebrities pixelate their children's faces in every photo. Some build entire legal frameworks to prosecute photographers who try to get past the wall. Some, like the woman at the center of this story, do it themselves, manually, post by post, watching every angle. The mental load of that vigilance is enormous. And she was carrying that load admirably until the second she got on X to fight back against some random hater who probably will not even be relevant by next week. That is the cost of the clapback addiction. That is the cost of letting strangers live in your head rent-free. I want to take a moment to talk about the wider trend here, because Cardi B is not operating in a vacuum. We have watched several A-list mothers face similar privacy collapses over the last few years. Sometimes it is a wayward family member who posts a photo. Sometimes it is a school photographer who breaks confidentiality. Sometimes it is a paparazzi telephoto lens through a hotel window. And sometimes, as in this case, it is the celebrity's own hand. The lesson is the same regardless of the mechanism. Privacy is fragile. Fame is corrosive. The combination is volatile. And when a celebrity has built an empire on accessibility, the way she has, the muscle memory of oversharing is hard to override even when the stakes are at their highest. Let me bring you back inside the moment, because I want you to really visualize what was happening on her end. Picture her sitting at home, probably still riding the high of Wave's pre-K graduation. Picture her phone lighting up with notifications. Picture the comments rolling in, some sweet, some snide. Picture the exact instant when she saw a comment that crossed the line. Picture her thumb hitting the screenshot key. Picture her brain calculating the perfect way to roast the offender. Picture her hitting post. And now picture, about 90 seconds later, her refreshing her timeline and seeing the first reply that says, in all caps, that the bottom of her screenshot just showed her entire camera roll. Picture the stomach drop. Picture the cold sweat. Picture the dive for the delete button. That moment, that exact moment, is the moment every social media manager in America just used as a training slide for their entire client roster. Do not screenshot anything sensitive without cropping. Do not upload from camera roll without checking the share sheet. Do not let your emotional reaction outrun your operational discipline. She just gave the entire celebrity ecosystem a free lesson at her own expense. And remember, the public is not going to be gentle about this. She has a fan base that adores her, but she also has a hater base that has been waiting for an unforced error for years. Those people are eating right now. Those people are screenshotting the screenshot of the screenshot and writing 12-paragraph threads about how her parenting choices are inconsistent. Those people will be referencing this moment for the next decade every time she tries to lecture anybody about privacy. That is the cost of the slip. That is the receipt that does not get torn up. There is also a strange parallel worth drawing here. She is famously protective of her family, but she is also famously a woman who lives online. The same platforms that made her a global superstar are the same platforms that just bit her. There is no version of her career that does not exist on social media. So when the very thing that built her empire becomes the very thing that compromises her family, the Bronx hitmaker is left in a paradox that has no clean exit. She cannot log off. She built a business on logging on. But every time she logs on, she risks another slip. That is the modern celebrity dilemma in one perfectly preserved case study. And this is where it twists one more time, because I am hearing whispers in the gossip ecosystem that some pages were already preparing baby boy content packages anticipating an eventual leak. The infrastructure of the celebrity baby photo economy is real, and it does not wait around. Once her slip became public, those packages reportedly got dusted off and put back into the production queue. Whether any of them ever surface in a serious way remains to be seen, but the speed at which the gossip machine repositioned itself tells you everything about how aggressively people have been hunting for this exact opening for the last 7 months. She has not addressed the slip directly as of right now, and honestly, I am not sure she should. Sometimes the loudest thing you can do is say nothing. Sometimes acknowledging the mistake gives it twice the oxygen it needed. Sometimes the smartest move is to let it cool, let the next news cycle eat the headlines, and pivot back to whatever she was going to be promoting next anyway. Knowing her, she will probably say something eventually. She has never been able to leave a controversy unaddressed for long. But the longer she waits, the more strategically she will be able to thread it. Let me circle back to Wave for a second, because there is something tender in this story that gets lost in the chaos. Wave is just a little boy who graduated pre-K. He did the thing every 4-year-old in America does in late spring. He stood on a tiny stage, wore a tiny cap, held a tiny diploma, and looked at his mom with the kind of pride that only a kid that age can summon. Mom was glowing. She was being a mom, full stop. And the haters who started piling on for absolutely no defensible reason are the entire reason this slip ever happened. So while it is fair to critique her for not cropping the screenshot, it is equally fair to point at the swarm of strangers who spent their evening dissecting a 4-year-old's graduation video looking for something to complain about. That swarm is also part of the story. That swarm helped engineer this exact outcome. Now let me give you the broader lesson, because this is not just a Cardi B story. This is a digital hygiene story that every parent, famous or not, should be writing down. The share sheet on your phone is dangerous. Anything that lives in your camera roll can end up in a screenshot if you do not stop and check. The default behaviors of our devices are tuned for convenience, not for privacy. So if a woman with her teams and her assistants and her media training can slip up like this, you can absolutely slip up too. Lock down your devices. Clean out your camera roll regularly. Crop everything before you post. Treat every screenshot like it is a courtroom exhibit, because in the age of viral gossip, that is exactly what it is. And here is what I think actually happens next. I think she does a quiet pivot. I think we see her socials slow down for about a week. I think we see her post a beautifully composed, fully cropped, professionally produced family photo at some point in the next month that includes a controlled glimpse of the baby boy on her own terms. I think she reclaims the narrative the way she has reclaimed every narrative she has ever been in. Because if there is one thing this woman has demonstrated over and over for the last 7 years, it is that she does not lose. She might stumble. She might trip. She might post a screenshot that breaks half the internet. But she does not stay down. She gets back up, shakes off the dust, and somehow finds a way to make the entire mess look like part of the plan. The blogger that Cardi B threatened a few weeks back, by the way, has been suspiciously quiet through all of this. No gloating posts. No I told you so videos. No fresh round of claims. Which, frankly, is the smart play, because the Bronx hitmaker is not a person you taunt when she is wounded. Wounded, she is more dangerous than comfortable, and anybody who has watched her for any length of time knows that the smartest move when she is in her feelings is to give her space and stay off her timeline. The fact that the blogger has not surfaced may also tell us that those original baby pictures she claimed to have were indeed a bluff. Or it may tell us that she is sitting on real receipts and waiting for the moment of maximum impact. Either way, the silence is its own statement. I want to give credit for one specific thing in this whole situation. The instant she realized what happened, she deleted. She did not double down. She did not try to gaslight the obvious. She did not pretend the bottom strip was photoshopped. She saw the slip, accepted the slip, and pulled the post. That is more accountability than most celebrities show when they fumble. And while it does not undo the damage, it does count for something in the broader court of public opinion. Because the celebrities who try to lie about an obvious mistake usually end up paying double. She did not pay double here. She took the loss with relative dignity, and that may end up being the thing that saves her from the worst possible version of this news cycle. One more thing worth flagging. She is going to need to have a very specific conversation with Stefon Diggs about all of this, because Stefon Diggs has his own brand to protect and his own opinions about how their son should be introduced to the world. Stefon Diggs has been notably quiet about the new baby on his own platforms, which is a deliberate choice. Stefon Diggs deferred to her preference for privacy. And now she has to walk back into a conversation with the father of her child and explain that she compromised the very privacy strategy they had agreed to. That is not going to be the most comfortable dinner of the year for the Diggs household. There is no audio of that conversation, and there should not be, but you can imagine the weight of it. The other thing that strikes me about this whole episode is how it mirrors a pattern that this woman has shown her entire career. Every single major scandal she has ever been in started with her responding to a hater. Every single one. She will be having the best week of her life, and a stranger online will say something provocative, and her thumbs will move faster than her brain, and suddenly the algorithm has a new trending topic with her name on it. It is the same loop, over and over. The names of the haters change. The platforms change. The clapbacks change. But the engine that powers the chaos is identical. She sees disrespect, she fires back, and she occasionally pays a tax for the privilege. This is the most expensive tax she has paid in a while. This one cost her the most precious image she had been guarding. And maybe, just maybe, this is the moment where Cardi B finally decides to install some kind of internal speed bump between her emotional triggers and her post button. Maybe she hires a person whose entire job is to look at her drafts before they go live. Maybe she sets a 30-second cooldown rule for herself. Maybe she just stops posting screenshots altogether and finds another way to argue with strangers. Whatever the lesson is, she has the receipts now to know that it is worth learning. Because the next slip might not be a cropped baby photo. The next slip might be something even more sensitive. And the next slip might land at a time when the cultural climate is not as forgiving as it is right now. I do want to say one thing about the audience side of this, because I think we have a responsibility too. The pictures that came out of the camera roll strip do not have to be reshared. The grainy thumbnails do not have to be analyzed. The whole point of her trying to protect that baby's face is so that he could grow up with a small amount of normalcy before fame is forced onto him. We can give her that. We can let the screenshots fade. We can refuse to amplify them. We can be the audience that respects the privacy line even when the celebrity herself accidentally crossed it. That is a small act, but it is a real one. And it costs us nothing to make. So where does she go from here? I think we see a phase of quiet from her. I think we see Stefon Diggs gently absent from the conversation. I think we see a tightly controlled family content drop in the next few weeks that reframes the narrative on her terms. I think we see the gossip pages move on to the next celebrity slip the moment one materializes, and we know one always does. And I think the lesson here, the one that sticks long after the screenshots are forgotten, is that even the most savvy, most chronically online, most camera-aware celebrity in the world can be undone by one uncropped image. That is the fragility of the modern famous parent. That is the new ceiling for what privacy means right now. And the woman at the center of all of this, against her will, just became the most cited case study of the year. There is something almost tragic about watching it unfold in real time, because she did not deserve to have her parenting strategy hijacked by her own thumb. She was being a mom. She was defending her son. She was doing what every parent in America does when somebody talks sideways about their kid. And the universe decided that this was the moment to remind her that nobody, no matter how famous, no matter how seasoned, no matter how well-funded, is exempt from the gravity of one careless click. That is a lesson that will outlive this news cycle. That is a lesson the next celebrity to step on this same rake will eventually learn the hard way. But while we wait for that next celebrity to walk into the trap, Cardi B is the one sitting in the seat right now. The Bronx hitmaker is the one whose name is trending. She is the one having the conversations behind closed doors with her team. She is the one looking at her camera roll tonight and deciding what to delete, what to back up, and what to never let a screenshot near again. And honestly, I hope she comes out of this stronger. I hope this becomes the inflection point where she rebuilds her digital boundaries from the ground up. Because Bardi at her best is a force of culture, and Bardi distracted by self-inflicted scandals is just another celebrity bleeding clicks. The version of her we want back is the one with the bars and the laughter and the unfiltered joy. Not the one playing defense over a screenshot she should have cropped. Let me also drop some perspective on the timing here, because this is not a random week for Cardi B to be having a privacy crisis. We are deep into a stretch where the music industry is watching her every move, the streaming numbers are being dissected daily, and her name is in the algorithm rotation across every platform that matters. So a slip like this does not stay contained inside the gossip space. It bleeds into the business space. It becomes a talking point on the morning radio circuit. It becomes a sidebar on the entertainment news roundups. It becomes a meme template for the next 48 hours. The exposure multiplier on a Cardi B slip is exponentially larger than the exposure multiplier on most celebrities, and that is a function of how culturally embedded she has become over the last 7 years. The downside of that embedding is that even her smallest mistakes get nationalized. And you have to factor in the platform-by-platform fallout, because each social network handles a slip like this differently. On X, the screenshot got mirrored within minutes and traded as a kind of gossip currency, with quote tweets stacking on top of quote tweets until the original post became impossible to even find. On Instagram, the slip became a carousel template, with creators stitching together side-by-side comparisons of what Cardi B has previously said about privacy versus what just happened. On TikTok, the slip became a sound bite, with creators dubbing their own voiceovers over the silent screenshot footage. Each of those platforms has its own velocity, its own audience overlap, its own appetite for outrage, and within 12 hours the slip had ricocheted through all of them. There was no clean firewall. There was no platform she could log into without the story being the first thing in her feed. Let me also speak for a minute about the role of the modern audience in stories like this, because the dynamic is more layered than it looks. We say we want celebrities to be authentic. We say we want them to be reachable. We say we want them to drop the curated mask and show us who they really are. And then the second one of them does exactly that, and lets us inside a real human moment. We treat every detail as evidence in a trial we did not even know we were holding. She did the most relatable thing a parent can do this week. She defended her son online. And the consequence of that relatable instinct is now playing out as a global news cycle. That is the paradox of being a famous mother in 2026. The behaviors we praise in private parents are the behaviors we punish in public ones. There is a question I keep coming back to as well. Who is actually benefiting from the spread of these camera roll thumbnails? The answer is depressingly simple. Not the fans. Not the family. Not the baby. The only beneficiaries are the engagement farming accounts that exist solely to harvest celebrity slips for clicks. Those accounts are not journalism. Those accounts are not commentary. Those accounts are not even gossip in the traditional sense. They are extraction machines, and they treat the privacy of a 7-month-old as raw material. The faster we recognize that distinction, the faster we can starve those accounts of the oxygen they need to survive. I also want to flag something about the legal angle, because there is one quietly emerging. The leaked images technically belong to her, since she took them on her phone. So if any blogger or gossip account reposts the camera roll strip and tries to monetize it, she has a credible copyright claim. That is not a complete shield, but it is a real tool. We have seen celebrities use exactly this kind of intellectual property argument to scrub leaked photos off platforms before, and the woman at the center of this story has both the lawyers and the willingness to pursue it aggressively. Anybody currently profiting off those grainy thumbnails should think very carefully about the size of the legal team that is probably already drafting takedown notices. There is also the question of what this does to her negotiating power going forward. Celebrities like Cardi B exist inside an ongoing economic conversation with brands, magazines, and streaming partners. Privacy slips degrade that negotiating power in subtle but measurable ways. A magazine that might have been about to offer a 7-figure exclusive for the first official baby photo now has to factor in that some version of the baby is already in circulation. A brand that might have wanted her for a family-focused campaign now has to factor in that her family is in the middle of a viral controversy. None of these conversations get cancelled, but all of them get repriced. And in the celebrity economy, repricing is the quiet way reputations get eroded. You do not always see the immediate hit. You see it 3 quarters later when a check that should have had 2 extra zeros has 1 fewer. So here is the part where I want to hear from you, because this story is one of those rare ones where there is no clean answer. Do you think she was right to clap back at the haters even at the risk of slipping up? Do you think the public has any right to see celebrity babies at all, or should famous kids stay off the internet entirely until they can consent for themselves? Do you think she will recover her privacy strategy, or do you think the dam is officially broken? And maybe most importantly, do you think the blogger she threatened a few weeks ago actually had pictures, or do you think the whole thing was a bluff that just got accidentally proven real? Drop your honest take in the comments section right now, because the comments on this one are going to be a fascinating snapshot of how the culture is processing the privacy of celebrity children in real time. Stick around the channel, because I am going to be tracking every move Cardi B makes from here, and you do not want to miss the moment she decides to address this directly. If she addresses it, she might not. Knowing her, she might just post a new outfit, ignore the entire conversation, and dare us to bring it up. That is the chaos charm of the woman, and that is exactly why we cannot look away. That is the breakdown for tonight on the camera roll situation. Catch you on the next one, because the way this week is shaping up, we are going to need another segment before the weekend is out.